Hello and welcome to Lecture 1 for the Storytelling for Business course being brought to you by thestorystudio.org. I'm Kevin Allison and I'm the founder of the Story Studio and also the producer of Risk, a live show and podcast where stories are told. You can find that at risk-show.com. Now in this course, we're going to apply practical guidelines for creating compelling stories to communicate more effectively at work. In this first lecture, we're going to address the question, what is a story? And why is it so important to be able to make the distinction between a block of information that's not a story and one that is? Now, in your supplementary materials, you will find a couple blocks of information that are not stories, and then that same content transposed into stories. So, let's begin. What is a story? Picture this. You're walking down the street, you're listening to your iPod, so you have someone singing information into your ears. Then you pass a bus, you see some information there, you pass a TV, you see some information there, maybe your calendar goes off, there's information for you there. It's all kind of in one ear and out the other. It's maybe important information, but it's kind of mundane. You don't care about it all that much. Now, let's say a little girl gets struck by a car right in front of you. Things change. You pull the earbuds out of your ears. You make an assessment of where everything is around you. You take a good look into her eyes. You say, "Are you okay?" And you start reaching out to people around you. You become very present to the emotional connection you have to another human being and the emotional connections being made inside yourself. Now, what's different about that situation than the situation before? The difference is that suddenly you cared. You cared. The ancient Greeks had two words for time passing. One is chronos, that just means ordinary time going by, and one is kairos, and that means those precious moments in life where life seems to be imbued with more emotion. Emotions are evoked in those moments that are story-worthy. That's the one essential ingredient of a story. The one thing that makes a story distinct from any other series of sentences is that the teller and the listener have an emotional investment in the information being laid out. At its core, a story has what I call an emotional through line, an emotionally charged mood or attitude or belief that arcs over a course of incidents described. A story starts in one emotional state, and by the end of it, that state will have become at least somewhat changed. Now, the second essential ingredient of a story is that it involves one or more human beings whose emotions we, the listener, can relate to, or an animal, or an object onto which the emotions of human beings can be applied, so we can relate to them. So to begin brainstorming on potential stories you might be able to use one day in the workplace, I want you to refer to the supplementary materials. Set aside about 15 minutes to sit quietly and concentrate. Jot down notes that answer these questions. What were the incidents in my life where I was especially happy or hopeful? What were the incidents in my life where I was especially worried or frightened? How about the incidents where you were especially inspired or excited? The incidents where you were especially angry or frustrated? The incidents where you were especially embarrassed or ashamed? And the incidents where you were especially sad or sympathetic? Now, after you've answered those questions, and alternate prompts in the supplementary materials, be sure to read the sample stories there as well. We'll talk about those samples in Lecture 2. Now, to summarize what we learned in Lecture 1, a story recreates a series of related incidents that involve human beings, or at least things that are like human beings. And what connects those incidents is an emotional through line, an emotionally charged mood or attitude or belief that we can follow through an arc of change over the incidents described. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out the supplementary materials for your homework for this Lecture 1 and I'll see you at lecture 2, where we discuss how storytelling for business is different from stories that you might tell in your social life.